Cheers, guys. Epix 911, welcome to the Elitist Geek VR news for Monday, October 17th, 2016. Let's jump right into VR, guys. Spent some additional time with the Sony PlayStation VR last night. Ran into my first tracking issues, so I have that other video up this evening as well. If you're still on the fence about the PlayStation VR, want to know a little bit more, I encourage you to watch the update video because I touch on some negative things that I didn't experience in those first 48 hours, that may help your decision one way or the other, right? So look out for that video. It'll be up tonight as well. Second preamble, Arctica.1 or .1, which is the VR debut of 4A Games, the devs for Metro series. There is a 17-minute gameplay video up. It's not an official video by them. In fact, there's no sound effects or music from the game. You're hearing the venue that this was shown at, so it's a recording of that. What I would be curious is your guys' opinion. Take a look at this and see if you see the same thing that I got out of this, right? So yeah, obviously the graphics look polished, has the potential, AAA. What disturbed me was the locomotion system. And it's also something I'm going to touch on in the Sony video in the Batman game. But the locomotion in Arctica.1 looks to me very static and very teleporty, to the point where you look like you're frozen on the spot and then you can teleport, but you don't get that sense of freedom in the spot that you're currently in. Maybe I was seeing that incorrectly, so yeah, curious what your guys' thoughts on that are. All right, first news story concerning Chinese HTC president Alvin Graylin. Now, he had spoken a few days ago and kind of reiterated we're not competitors. We have unique market segments, and not saying it was lovey-dovey or anything, but basically drawing a picture of, there's enough room for everybody here, and, we kind of get along. Then he tweeted some interesting tweets out, and if you read between the lines, it paints a whole different picture than that of, peace and love. He had some tweets, and in the first one, he talks about their product. And he compares each of the three to cars. For the Vive, he compares it to a Tesla Model X, describing them as full-featured products for versatile use. For the Rift, he likens it to a Chevy Volt, with its compact design for home use. For the PlayStation VR, he likens it to a Toyota Prius, modern design for younger customers that's more affordable than its contemporaries. Reading between the lines, and again, if I've lost my mind, you can point that out below, but bear with me for a second and hear me out on this. So that's what I read, but that's not what I read. What I actually read was, we are the most versatile product, the Vive. We can do pretty much anything. The Rift, you know what? They're home. And, they got likened to a Chevy Volt. And I'm sure if you're on the Oculus side of the equation, probably not the most flattering comparison after the other guys compared themselves to the Tesla Model X, right? Not saying the Volt's a bad car, I'm just saying it's a little different, right? The PlayStation VR, modern design, younger customers, more affordable. All right. So with the Rift, in addition to that, it's clear with the release of the Touch, the addition of a camera, the Rift has essentially the same versatility as the Vive. Roughly the same price too, albeit possibly even a bit cheaper, right? Once you buy the Touch, you get that extra camera. If it was truly as peaceful, that would be part of the equation. But no, they've relegated them to just being a home solution, right? When really, like I say, with a Touch and additional camera, they could do the VR arcade stuff too, no problem. So I thought that was kind of funny, just to read that in between. And of course, for PlayStation VR, the Toyota Prius, modern design, younger customers, more affordable, read to me simply as it's cheap because it's a toy for kids. So with nowhere near the sophistication of our product. So, those are my thoughts on that. To me, those are clear battle lines if you read between the lines. And again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if you hear the second story that I'm going to get into now, I think you can build a case for my theory, because they do have some ambitions that point in that direction of their supposed superiority in the versatility angle. That next story now. HTC makes a big play for VR content distribution in China. So HTC held a joint developer conference forum at Alibaba's cloud computing conference just over this last weekend in China. Now, Alibaba is the massive online Chinese shopping network. And it was during that they announced they were going to be coming out with Vive.to, which is their publishing for mobile apps, which is huge. VR mobile apps in China is massive. And Vive.to Arcades, which, caters to their ambition of being in thousands of virtual reality arcades across China. So there was that, and then they mentioned that they're proposing a 50-50 revenue split model for publishing with developers. So you take that into consideration, and I think that lends some, validity to the thoughts that it's not as peaceful, and they damn well are in competition. Next news piece, and this one really doesn't have much to do with Cutthroat, so it's kind of nice, little softer piece. Nokia finally releases the 360-degree editing software for that $60,000 camera, the high-end one, which became the $45,000 camera. It had some basic software with it, but not the full-blown package until now. So that's finally out, beta form for Windows 10, and it's called Ozo Creator. No word on the cost for that yet or exact release date. Then the last story, this one's a little more somber. I live in the province of British Columbia in Canada, and British Columbia is massive. It's 770,000 square kilometers. You put that over top a map of Europe, and you're stretching from Scandinavia essentially to the Mediterranean. It's huge. 4 million people in all of that. Now, there's a lot of mountainous terrain, obviously, but still, there's a lot of land for a lot more people compared to the Netherlands, which is around the same size of one of our islands that only has a few 100,000 people. The Netherlands has, 17 million plus in that same amount of space. So halfway across middle of BC, there's a highway that runs across called Highway 16. Now, it's also known by a more depressing name, and that is Highway of Tears, because since 1969, 20 plus women, or according to the indigenous native population near Highway 16, closer to 50 plus girls and women have disappeared. Now, this country, the US and Australia, there's a history of a mostly one-sided relationship with indigenous people. And, it's no different in BC. There's been a lot of different things. And not a political channel, not going to get into that. I just want to lay the context for the 360-degree film that filmmaker Lisa Jackson, herself also native, created based on this topic. Because it's one of those things, you hear about it every couple of years, but you don't get a sense that there's a real active investigation going on. So it gives you some history. It gives you what VR can offer that conventional media can't. It puts you, in my opinion, one step closer, empathy-wise, presence-wise, of what it may feel like in another person's shoes, right? So, an interesting project, one that I'm going to try to find and watch. No idea of when it's coming out. They didn't specify, but I have the link below. It's our national TV and news network, CBC. They ran the story. So if I hear anything else, there's any Canadians, anyone else interested in that, I will post the link. All right, guys, that is it for the news. Sorry to end it on a bit of a more somber note, but there's plenty of happy stuff coming, including some games. As always, cheers, guys. And I think I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that I will be away this week on business, actually to the interior of this province. But videos will be out every day, possibly a little later on Thursday when I'm driving home. Expected to be home by about 8, 9 o'clock, so it'll be a bit later. Cheers, guys, and as always, catch you on the VR flip side.